Today's video is for you if you've got redness or rosacea and you just want to feel a bit more comfortable in your party makeup for this time of year. Everything that I mention is going to be listed in the description, but you know your skin better than me. Go with what works for you. And another thing I always like to point out with rosacea is that I'm not a doctor, I can't diagnose you, but on this page I've got kind of live chats with dermatologists, lots of videos about rosacea. So if you want to delve into this in a bit more detail, do have a look for the rosacea playlist. So before I start talking about makeup, I just wanted to show you my skin. Now this time of year it's a bit difficult because it's dark outside and I've got artificial lighting at the moment, but at the moment my skin is more flushing in red and more red texture. And I can tell you exactly why. I've been having more drinks with friends. I've been eating more sugary things. There are so many redness related triggers like extreme weather that we have at the moment, like diet, alcohol, different sleep patterns, whatever it might be for you. And I am just absolutely enjoying all these things that I know are like not the best for my skin. And I thought I'd start with this because I think a lot of us are going to change our habits probably over the party season. You might be going out more, you might be indulging a bit more. And so if that has an impact on your skin, you know, it's one of those things, it's a couple of weeks out of the year. Is it really the end of the world? When you put things out there on the internet, you inevitably get a real mixture of feedback. And there are so many things that I go to talk to you about and I stop myself because I think someone will challenge on this and someone will challenge on that. And I know that there will be someone watching this that says, how outrageous is it that this person is encouraging you to do all of these things that they know are bad for your skin? But you know what? We're all going to let our hair down over Christmas, and I'd rather you see me with my skin a bit more red than usual saying, well, I'm certainly not going to follow my strict, you know, habits that I usually follow to keep my skin as good as it can be, because I'm just going to relax a bit because it's Christmas. And if you're thinking of doing the same, it's fine. We're all doing the same thing. That in mind, what I also wanted to do is just give you some tips on how to keep your makeup as fab as possible and your skin if you don't wear makeup, in order to kind of counteract that maybe your habits are going to change over the next few weeks. So to begin, the number one thing I would say to you is find a moisturiser that works for you and apply it liberally as often as you can. One of the ones that I've used a lot this year, I've gone through a few tubes of this actually, is the Avene Tolerance Hydra 10. It's essentially a really lightweight fluid but really densely hydrating. Now, the thing with redness or rosacea is that it's hot to the touch. And so when that is put in an equation with your makeup may be more prone to running around a little bit more than it would be on a person that doesn't have skin that's hot to the touch. And I know it's really frustrating. I put a video, I think it was on TikTok recently, and someone had written like, oh my gosh, like food can trigger it. This is so frustrating. Like I think they were learning the ins and outs of having rosacea and what you might have to manage. But actually, it's really good to know these things because, okay, we might not be able to change them, but we can take the information that we have and use it to our advantage and use it to plan ahead for the best possible makeup. So I know it's frustrating that our skin is hot to the touch, but once we know that, we can be like, okay, if we want a longer lasting makeup, we might choose something with more of a matte finish or with more of a long wear, so that when the skin inevitably feels a bit more hot, everything isn't going to melt away quite so quickly. I've got lots of videos on the page here with various skincare recommendations. Quite often, I really don't want to be like dismissive of a question. Quite often someone will leave a comment and say, what's the best moisturiser? Which cleanser would you recommend? And I know this is such an annoying answer, but it really depends, because let's say, for example, if you had more of an oily rosacea skin, I might recommend something like the Effaclar H La Roche Posay cleanser. Whereas if you were more of a dry rosacea skin, I might recommend something like the Dermocleanse from Roche Posay. Speaking of Roche Posay, Avene, CeraVe, Vichy, lots of the French pharmacy brands are really good for rosacea. And again, loads of recommendations on these, but basically I've gone into loads of detail in the videos in the rosacea playlist. So if it's really like a new routine that you're looking for, definitely go and have a look at those. And the thing is, even if they're a bit older, that the recommendations don't really change, because a lot of the time it's really classic tried and tested things that I'll always come back to as a suggestion. Once you've found a great moisturiser, in my opinion, you might not necessarily need a primer. The reason being, if you think of your primer step, it's really designed to hold your makeup into place. If your skin is as hydrated as it can be and as calm as it can be, that in itself will be an optimal base for your makeup. And in my opinion, the money that you would have spent on your primer, I'd much rather you either save or spend on another part of your routine. If you really want one, I think the Laura Mercier primers are fantastic. There are various primers, again, in the other videos that I would recommend. But for the most part, I would encourage you to put that pocket of money into your moisturiser instead. Now, let's talk about your coverage. I'm going to use the IT Cosmetics CC cream today in light medium. You're probably thinking, here we go again. But the reality is, I think with every part of your routine, when you find something that works for you, even though there's millions of videos online, here's me making one for you right now. Ignore anything else. If you find what works and stick to it, half the time, that can be such a huge part of the battle, and just knowing that you've got a routine that you feel really confident in. I have put a lot of this on. This is the shade Light Medium, which doesn't match my face, but does match my tan. And if I might say so, even I'm getting a shock looking at this, but it looks a lot fuller under this artificial light. I haven't actually got loads of this on, but obviously because it's warmer than my complexion, and it's such a full coverage, you probably think I've got absolutely like plasterings of makeup on, but I really haven't, I promise you. I've just got one multi-purpose full coverage base. Now, personally, again, this is unconventional advice, so if it's not for you, don't worry about it. As you can see, I go a bit warmer. I do tan my body so that it matches that. But to be honest with you, the peachiness of going a bit warmer, I find helps to colour correct the redness. And what I would say to you is, just have a little experiment with colour correctors, traditional foundations, see what feels the best for you. And I know this looks really warm, but in the context of a full makeup, that ends up feeling really natural. Now, what I meant to say, but I was too busy thinking I'm going to get hauled over the coals for this colour match, I use the softest touch. I barely press with this brush, because if you scrub and rush, you're taking the makeup off before you've even built it up. Whereas pressing really gently and then patting a little bit more where you need it can make a huge difference. And then a crucial step that I would personally say would be set your makeup in place once you're happy with the level of coverage you've got. And to do this, I want you to press rather than rub. I'm going to use, very messy here, you can see it's been clanging around my handbag, Aimee's Sculpted by Aimee Velvet Veil. Pardon me, something went down the wrong way. And a little Bobbi Brown brush. If your skin is hot to the touch, it's more likely that your makeup will melt away a little bit. So what I want to do is essentially lock this in with a powder. Another thing I would just like to point out is that I am in a dark room with artificial light, and this doesn't look, you can't see every single pore and bit of texture on my face that you would see in natural light. I couldn't film in the natural light today. I had other things I needed to do, but I promise you I'm going to try and film up close so that you can get a realistic look at what this looks like, because in this light it can look a lot more perfected than it would. Lex, who has a brilliant rosacea blog that I'm sure I've referred you to a million times, but if you haven't already seen it, Talonted Lex, she's been writing about rosacea for years. She has loads of helpful resources. She has downloadable tools as well. So for example, things that you can use to identify your triggers so that you can avoid them when you're trying to have a good skin day. She just did a live yesterday all about like how there are unrealistic standards of beauty and unrealistic representations of real skin. This was with Lisa Caldagnetto. It just came up yesterday. I need to go back and watch the full thing. But I know that one of the things she was saying is that, like, she always says anyway that she wants to see more real skin. And as part of that, I would just like to emphasize that it's only as real as it can be in this lighting, and I will show you up close with the back camera another time what your skin is likely to look like. But at the same time, you can see we've achieved a great level of coverage there. So let's just say you've got your base on, you're happy. A crucial step, I would say, is bring your powder out with you and bring something with you to top up. I've brought a few ideas in here. On the high street, I would say the Maybelline Instant Eye Erase Concealer is probably one of my top picks for you because it has a sponge at the end. If your redness starts showing through, just pat a little bit of coverage on, tap it in. And the thing is, right, I know we see all this marketing about 24-hour wear and this wear and that wear. It's never going to be as effective as just topping up where you need. And the truth is, you might give a few people a hug, you might accidentally wipe your nose, you might scratch something. All of these things can potentially lift the coverage off. And I'm assuming here that you want to wear a coverage, but the reality is, when I look at the things that I get requested, when I ask you the kind of things you want to see videos on, covering redness is always high up on the list of priorities. And I'll be honest with you, for my night out, that's on the list of my priorities. I can relax and I feel more comfortable when I know I've got a full coverage on my redness. Another high street alternative, the L'Oreal Infallible Concealer. Very velvety, very full coverage. I've often mentioned this to you, but I love the NARS soft matte concealer because it's a creamy texture, but it has the matte finish. And so if the redness pokes through more than you feel oily as such, this might be the only thing you need to take because it's creamy enough to apply with your fingers, but it sets to a matte finish. Again, with the sponge at the end, very handy. The Clinique concealer, you essentially have your full coverage formula in here. Dab, dab, dab. Then you use your sponge to just tap it into place. Nice and hygienic for on the go. And finally, a great one, the Bobbi Brown concealer sticks. There are also corrector versions of this, and what I like about this one is that it's more creamy. Even though it dries to a velvety finish, it's nice for a dry skin if you kind of want the balance of not having anything too mattifying, but still having something that isn't going to move. This is running shortly out of time, so I'm going to keep it really short today and live and leave you at that. But enjoy your Christmas. I know it's not easy navigating when you've got redness, but you will find what works for you. You will be able to bring your skin back down to balance. If you've got any worries with your skin, please see a doctor. Or I actually saw a great thing on the Boots website the other day. They have an online rosacea doctor and there are teams that you can speak to there. It's just nice to have alternatives, especially if you're struggling to get an appointment at the moment, that there are places you can go if your skin is bothering you in any way. But speaking of rosacea, let me know any topics in particular you'd like me to cover in upcoming videos. You're gonna have a great Christmas, you're gonna feel great. We'll keep the videos coming so that you learn a few new tips and tricks, and I'll chat to you very soon. Take care.